Under the thick darkness of the Gulf of Mexico, a massive fishing vessel silently sailed into the stormy seas. In just one trip out to sea, this ship can pull up an enormous quantity of red snapper from the depths of the ocean. The red fish pour onto the deck, the workers strain, and the huge, heavy nets. But where does the $1 million come from? How can a single trip generate such enormous value when just one mistake or a change in weather could turn it all into a costly failure? This isn't just a fishing trip. It's what's really happening out there in the darkness and deep sea. Go discover $1 million of red snapper, pulled up in just one voyage in the Gulf of Mexico. Spanning thousands of square kilometers, the Gulf of Mexico is more than just a vast body of water. It is one of the richest and most challenging fishing grounds on the planet. Beneath those seemingly calm waters lies a complex ecosystem where ocean currents intersect and abundant nutrients are continuously replenished, creating ideal conditions for the thriving growth of valuable fish species. Among them, the red snapper is considered the red gold of the ocean. In the U.S. market, each pound of fresh red snapper can fetch a price that puts many other fish species insignificant, especially in high-end restaurants, where freshness, flesh color, and flavor directly determine the value of a dish. A single fish can be worth tens of dollars. A ton of fish can reach a value that makes an entire fishing trip memorable. Typically, to achieve a value of tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars, many ships have to fish over many trips for many days, or even an entire fishing season. But what about $1 million? That figure is no longer within the scope of a typical fishing trip. It's equivalent to the value of many fishing trips combined, or even the fruits of an entire fishing season for many ships. Right here, in the midst of a sea dubbed an underwater gold mine, a single question is becoming clearer than ever. What and who could be behind a voyage powerful enough to turn the ocean into money in such a short period of time? And to find the answer, we must leave these calm waters, step onto the deck, where humans, machines, and life or death decisions begin the real game. Every day at sea costs tens of thousands of dollars for fuel, labor, maintenance, and supplies. On deck, the crew works non-stop in shifts lasting 12 to 16 hours, amidst the noise of machinery, salt water, and ever-present risks. Returning empty-handed would not only result in a failed trip, but could also plunge the entire business into crisis. Therefore, $1 million is not a gift from the ocean, but the result of a gamble where every decision is carefully calculated. Once the ship was far enough from shore, the gamble in the deep sea began. A massive net, hundreds of feet long, was lowered into the dark water, gradually sinking to a depth where no one could see what awaited. Hours passed in tense silence with all eyes fixed on the coordinates and equipment. Even a small misalignment could result in an empty net being pulled up. The sea is never still. Strong winds, high waves, and changing currents can turn every maneuver dangerous, and a single mishap like a torn net or getting caught on a rock can cause hundreds of thousands of dollars to disappear in the blink of an eye. Then the decisive moment arrived. The net rose from the water, heavy and laden, dragging with it the first patches of red that appeared under the deck lights. The snapper swarmed densely, and the silence was immediately broken. Workers rushed to their jobs at maximum speed, every movement requiring absolute precision. Fish were dumped onto the deck, their weight increasing rapidly, the weighing machines running continuously, and the numbers jumping by minute. In a short time, the cold steel deck was piled high with valuable cargo. But that's just the first step. For those numbers to actually become $1 million, the ship must return to shore, where another machine in the processing plant will decide whether the spoils of the sea can be turned into real profit. When the ship docks, each crate of fish must be unloaded within the critical few hours before quality begins to deteriorate. The fish is then transferred directly to a deep freeze area where the temperature is strictly controlled down to the Fahrenheit degree. At this point, speed is no longer an advantage. It's a necessity. Every minute the fish are outside of controlled conditions translates directly into money. Line managers constantly monitor the clock because even a small bottleneck in the initial unloading or sorting process will slow down the entire operation downstream in a domino effect. Just a moment's delay, just a short deviation in the cooling system, and the value of the entire batch of fish can plummet. Not by a few percent, but tens, even hundreds of thousands of dollars disappearing before the production line even gets started. Inside the factory, there is no room for emotion or slowness. Everything operates like a cold, precise industrial machine. Red snapper are dumped onto conveyor belts, sliding through automated sorting stations, where they are assessed by size, weight, and freshness in an instant. Each conveyor belt can process hundreds of fish per hour, and the entire system works seamlessly so that not a single second is wasted. In the cutting and cleaning area, automatic sharp blades move steadily, while highly skilled workers stand nearby, controlling each cut. Here, every operation is measured in seconds because a single misstep not only reduces the quality of the fillet, but also directly diminishes the value of the product. The numbers began to become clearer when production was added up. A skilled worker could process hundreds of fish a day, and in just 1 hour, this factory generated an amount of economic value that many small boats would have to sacrifice a whole week at sea to achieve. At the end of the line, whole fish are packed into crates for the domestic market, while the finest, highest quality fillets are carefully packaged for high-end restaurants and exported overseas, where each pound can fetch a significant price difference. Only when passing through this factory do the fish out there truly become money. But $1 million doesn't automatically fall into anyone's hands. Behind the cold lights, the steel conveyor belts, and the ever-increasing numbers lie a series of harsh calculations about operating costs, labor, energy, and time.
Нормально. Сколько тонн, Серега, как думаешь? Сейчас выдержит. Примерно могу сказать. Если еще глаз не потерялся.
Everything is weighed down here, where the line between a big win and a costly failure is thinner than ever. And just one small misstep can cause all the offshore gains to vanish right in the heart of this money-making machine. When the last crates of fish leave the production line, the $1 million figure truly comes to light. The total output is calculated coldly. How much fish meets the standards, what percentage maintains the highest quality, and how much qualifies for entry into high-paying markets. Whole fish provide a steady stream of revenue, but it's the high-quality fillets, especially for export or high-end restaurants, that drive up value, sometimes by hundreds of thousands of dollars, simply due to classification and timing of sale. Interspersed within these calculations is the silent pulse of the market, where value never stands still for even a single day. The moment the fish leaves cold storage, the arrival schedule of container trucks at the port, orders from restaurants or importers can all determine whether the numbers increase or decrease. A shipment arriving at the right time when demand is high can fetch a price higher than expected. Conversely, even a one-day delay is enough to drive prices down. This is where seemingly small decisions, holding on to goods to wait for better prices or selling immediately to cut risk, become strategic choices. Because in this value chain, it's not just the sea or the machinery that makes money, but time, market rhythm, and the ability to read the right moment that silently determine the fate of a multi-million-dollar voyage. However, revenue does not equate to profit. Fuel consumed offshore, crew wages, ship and plant operating costs, refrigeration systems, and labor. Each expense gradually diminishes the value of the voyage. The final number reflects the win or loss, showing that the $1 million didn't come from a single net haul, but from an entire precisely operating industrial machine. And the price to pay isn't just money. The pressure of large-scale fishing weighs heavily on the limited fish stocks, resulting in red snapper being subject to strict seasonal and yield controls. Just one mistake, from a decision on board, a factory malfunction, to market fluctuations, can wipe out profits. Here, the line between big win and big loss is as thin as a net stretched across the open sea. As the ship silently left the dock, the last barrels of fish were loaded, and the $1 million voyage came to an end. But out there, the ocean continued its new gambles, where each voyage was a bet against nature, numbers, and the limits of human capabilities. If you want to continue exploring the stories behind the giant industries where the sea, machines, and money intersect, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next journeys. The offshore game is far from over. The blue crab is not an unfamiliar species, but few realize it sustains a vast area of the ocean along the east coast of the United States. From coastal swamps to shallow bays, this green-shelled crab has become an integral part of the local ecosystem and economy. Sweet, tender, and flavorful, crab meat is considered a premium ingredient in American seafood cuisine. It's everywhere, from seaside restaurants and famous crab cakes to seafood buffets and year-round crab festivals. But behind those tempting dishes lies a very real economic value. For many fishing vessels, a single successful season can bring in hundreds of thousands of dollars in revenue from blue crab. Small and unassuming beneath the water's surface, this crab species is the economic backbone and livelihood of thousands of coastal families, people who depend on the tides and crab seasons for their survival. The waters where blue crabs live have never been a promised land for easy money. These are wide lagoons and shallow bays like Chesapeake Bay or the Gulf Coast, where currents change constantly. Tides may be favorable in the morning, but become unpredictable after just a few hours. The sea here isn't violent in a showy way, but quietly challenges people with its capriciousness. During the day, the intense sunlight reflected on the water, making the deck scorching hot. At night, the cool, damp air from the sea seeped into every layer of clothing and every joint. The weather is rarely stable. Winds can suddenly rise, clouds can gather faster than predicted, and plans have to be changed at the last minute. On blue crab fishing boats, there is no such thing as a smooth journey. Each day at sea is a silent race against the tide, against time, and against human limitations. Because to catch 20,000 crabs in just 7 days, there is no room for delay, not even an hour. On the market, this catch of crabs could be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. But out at sea, money isn't the most obsessive thing. What's more evident is the passage of time, the gradual wear and tear on the human body from repetitive movements, and the unspoken question, is the price of a week at sea merely physical strength? Once the ship had stabilized in the shallow water, the real work began. On deck, the metal crab pots lay silently but heavily laden. They were heavy enough to grip the seabed, durable enough to withstand the currents and impacts for days. Each time they were pulled up, the pots carried not only crabs, but also water, mud, and the entire weight concentrated on the backs, shoulders, and arms of the workers. The work rhythm is relentless. Pull up the cage, open the lid, take out the crabs, sort them in seconds, close the lid, drop them down, and immediately move on to the next one. There are no clear pauses between operations. Every movement becomes a reflex, like a machine powered by human strength. In a single day, each person repeats that sequence of movements hundreds of times with the same posture, the same rhythm, and the same weight. The deck is always wet and slippery. Seawater, mud, and crab shells cover the floor. The ropes are constantly taut, moving unexpectedly with the tide and the speed of the winch. Injuries here rarely come from major accidents, but usually stem from a very small moment, a misstep, a hand that's half a second slower. The pressure doesn't come immediately. It builds up gradually over time. After a few hours, the back starts to ache, and the shoulders and arms feel heavy. The body adapts by conserving movement, using the body's weight to pull instead of just arm strength. But this adaptation doesn't eliminate fatigue. It only helps extend the ability to work for a few more hours. By the end of the day, soreness and exhaustion are no longer unusual, but become a familiar state. There are no heroic moments or clear victories here. Each cage is just a tiny fraction of the thousands that need to be processed. Empty cages or full cages, the work goes on. Everything is measured in numbers, not emotions. Time is not measured by clocks, but by the number of cages pulled up. Every minute of delay is valuable. With blue crab, time is of the essence. The crabs must be alive when brought ashore, fresh when they enter the sorting system, and sold at the right time to maintain their highest value. Every day that passes reduces the quality, and with it, the value of the entire batch of crab. In the market, delays are not measured in hours, but in lost opportunities that are gone forever. Therefore, this fishing trip was not just hard labor, but a 7-day race. 14 to 6-hour shifts followed one another, with only enough time for a quick meal, changing out of wet clothes, and returning to the deck. Exhaustion piled up day by day. After the third and fourth day, the pace of work slowed down, though nobody wanted it to. But it couldn't be slowed down, because each cage that hadn't been pulled up represented a portion of the remaining output, and time couldn't be extended any further. The sea doesn't wait. The tides rise and fall according to their cycle, and the green crabs don't wait until humans are ready. Within the predetermined 7-day period, there are no days to make up for lost time. Delaying means losing value, even rendering a whole week's effort meaningless. That's the reality behind those seemingly attractive numbers. A human-powered work machine, repeating the same tasks until the body has nothing left to give. When the last cages are pulled aboard, the blue crab's journey is far from over. In fact, their value only begins to be determined at this point. Right on the ship, the crabs are quickly sorted, checked for size and survival status. From sea to shore, the race continues. Crabs of live crab are transported directly to the factory in the shortest possible time. There, another process immediately begins. The crabs are inspected again. Any substandard individuals are removed, and they are placed in a storage system to maintain the appropriate temperature and humidity. Every step is carefully calculated to minimize risk. Even a single delay or a small error in quality control could cause the crabs to die before reaching the distributor. In this sequence, the line between profit and loss is very clearly defined. Live crabs mean money. Dead crabs mean losses. There are no gray areas, no opportunities for correction. The value of blue crab doesn't lie in the appealing images of dishes on the table, but in the speed at which the entire system can operate from the ship's deck to the factory. It's a closed value chain, where time dictates everything, and where every passing minute carries a very real number behind it. The figure of $600,000 sounds like a huge reward, but in the crab fishing business, it's rarely a guaranteed sum. Before it becomes a profit, it has to bear a host of expenses. Fuel consumed over several days, equipment wear and tear, and laborers working 14 to 16 hours a day. Even with a good harvest, profits are not guaranteed. Just a few days of bad weather, a technical glitch, or a delayed decision can wipe out expectations, while costs continue to mount. Therefore, $600,000 is not misleading in terms of value, but in the uncertainty behind it. This is an industry with no guarantees, where every voyage is a gamble with nature, the market, and human endurance. When things settle down, blue crab often appears simply as a seafood platter on the table, white, sweet, and peaceful. But behind that moment lay 7 days at sea, where time was compressed, the body worn down hour by hour, and every decision carried risk. No restaurant lights, only the cold, wet deck, the repetitive rhythm of work, and the pressure of racing against time. Blue crab doesn't just appear on your table by chance. To obtain it, someone has to sacrifice effort and accept an uncertain outcome. The value of the crab lies not only in its flavor, but also in its journey from the seabed to the meal. And when you've enjoyed it, perhaps the question remains: are you willing to spend a whole week at sea, facing exhaustion and uncertainty, in exchange for $600,000? $20,000 crabs in a week without rest, with $600,000 hanging in the balance. What about you? Would you dare to exhaust yourself for 7 days for $600,000? If you love authentic stories about money, risk, and people in the most demanding professions, don't forget to subscribe to the channel to continue following us. The ocean is not just a place to live, it's a nearly perfect ecosystem for producing what is considered the world's finest lobster. The water here is cold year-round, usually fluctuating by only a few degrees Celsius, causing the lobsters to grow more slowly, develop firmer muscles, and have thicker, sweeter, and more flavorful meat than in any warmer waters. On the surface, the cold North Atlantic current carries a constant flow of oxygen-rich water, keeping the environment clean and stable. Below, the rocky and seaweed-strewn seabed creates countless natural crevices, safe havens for lobsters to molt, grow, and thrive, protected from predators. The combination of low temperatures, strong currents, and complex seabed topography creates a natural nursery where each lobster is slowly tempered over the years. These harsh conditions are what give it its value: firm meat, a delicate sweetness, and a perfect structure when steamed, grilled, or prepared in high-end dishes. But if nature has been so generous, if every element from the cold water to the oxygen-rich ocean currents seems to be perfectly aligned, then why can its price reach $100 per kilogram? While the Nova Scotia coast is still asleep, the ships have already left port, venturing into the dark waters of Canada. A workday begins in the biting cold, with 200 to 300 cages to be lowered and pulled up from depths of 33 to 164 feet. Each cage weighs 44 to 66 pounds when dry, and many times more when saturated with seawater. The winch hissed in bursts, the rope taut like a guitar string. One wrong move, and the rope could wrap around your leg and drag you down into the sub-41 degrees Fahrenheit water, where survival time is measured not in hours, but in minutes. The deck was covered in ice, slippery as glass. Every step was a gamble. The first cage broke through the water's surface. Seawater splashed everywhere. Wind lashed across their faces. The moment the cage was opened was a decisive one, either reward or disappointment. Lobsters that meet quality standards must be of the required size, be egg-free to protect their breeding season, and have intact claws, because even a single crack can significantly reduce their value. Any that are too small will be released back into the sea. Any carrying eggs must also be returned to the ocean. Each decision takes place in a matter of seconds, amidst howling wind and pounding heartbeats. This isn't just fishing. This is a struggle for survival in the frigid wilderness where humans face the raging ocean head-on in exchange for every kilogram of premium seafood. But when you savor a perfect lobster dish in a cozy restaurant, does that high price simply reflect the quality of the meat? Or is it also the price of risk, of those cold mornings at sea that not everyone is willing to risk? Leaving the frigid deck of the ship, the lobster's journey is far from over. It has simply shifted from a battle against the waves to a battle against time. Those that meet the standards are taken directly to storage facilities, where conditions are almost perfectly controlled. In recirculating saltwater tanks, the ocean environment is precisely recreated. The temperature is maintained at 32 to 39 degrees Fahrenheit. To slow down metabolism, oxygen is continuously pumped, and salinity is closely monitored hourly. Technology has replaced the sea, but the pressure hasn't lessened, because even a small misstep can affect shipments worth tens of thousands of dollars. Each lobster is carefully sorted according to size, weight, and claw condition. The claws must be intact, the body free of scratches, and the reflexes must be strong. In the high-end segment, being alive isn't an advantage, it's a requirement. A single weak individual can significantly reduce the value of the entire order. And as soon as they are placed in the tanks, the clock begins to count down. 24 to 48 hours to transport the creatures, freshly left the bottom of the Atlantic, to markets halfway around the world. Once out of storage tanks, lobsters embark on a transcontinental journey. They are not transported in water, but are placed in specialized insulated containers lined with moist seaweed to maintain natural humidity and sustain a temporary state of hibernation. The dark, cold, and stable environment helps them survive the entire truck journey. In just 2 days, a lobster could be in a glass tank at a New York City restaurant or flown to Hong Kong to serve at a lavish party. Behind that moment of luxury lies an entire supply chain operating with precise timing, from fishermen at the harbor, distributors collecting goods, air logistics units, importers, to restaurants. At each link in the chain, transportation costs, refrigeration, taxes, and commercial profit margins add up, potentially resulting in a final price that is 2 to 3 times the initial price. Diners aren't just paying for taste. They're paying for time, for risk, and for a flawless global system. But not everyone arrives at the table alive, and it is at this intersection of survival and industry that the journey takes a different turn, into the processing plant, where value is defined in a completely different way. Not all lobsters that leave storage are sold alive. Right here at the coastal factories in Nova Scotia, a different journey begins, faster, more precise, and colder. When the containers of shrimp are transferred to the conveyor belt, the processing takes place almost instantaneously. The shrimp are quickly stunned to reduce their reflexes, then placed in a steaming system with temperatures strictly controlled minute by minute, degree by degree Celsius. After the steaming process, workers separate the tail and claw meat, the two most valuable parts, with decisive and precise movements. The meat is then transferred to an IQF, individual quick freezing system, where each part is frozen individually at extremely low temperatures to preserve its muscle fiber structure and natural sweetness. Finally, the product is vacuum-packed, ready for its long export journey to supermarkets and restaurants around the world. These processed products are more stable, easier to store, can travel further, and serve the mass retail market. They reduce the risk of spoilage, ease time constraints, and expand trade borders beyond Canada's cold waters. Yet, it is live lobsters, the most fragile, most difficult to transport, and riskiest segment, that can reach prices of $100 per kilogram. So, what truly creates value? The convenience and stability of processing technology, or the authentic feeling of a creature fresh from the ocean, still alive on the dinner table? The lobster industry in Nova Scotia is not a free-for-all. Seasons are limited by region and time to protect reproduction, quotas are tightly controlled, and fishing permits are valuable and scarce, even becoming hereditary assets for many fishing families. It is this discipline that has helped make the lobster industry one of Canada's most valuable fisheries, contributing billions of dollars annually to coastal communities. But behind that stability lie insidious fluctuations. Rising temperatures disrupt the growth cycle and distribution of lobsters. Extreme weather makes each fishing trip riskier and more expensive, while fuel prices and international competition continue to shrink profit margins. And then, amidst all those variables, dawn broke off the coast of Nova Scotia. The horizon shifted from a cold gray to a pale orange, and a ship silently left the harbor as on any other day. On the still dew-covered deck, steel cages were lowered into the deep blue water. As nature changes and costs rise, is that price a fair reflection of all that's come, or merely the fragile peak of an industry on the brink of collapse? As the sun rose higher, the ship was just a tiny dot in the vast ocean. But the journey of a lobster from the frigid seabed to a luxurious dinner table tells us a larger story about value, labor, and the true price behind luxury. If you enjoy journeys like this, where each dish, each product hides a little seen world, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next stories. Because sometimes understanding the journey makes every experience so much more valuable. Crocodiles are not pets. They are predators that have survived almost intact for over 200 million years, surviving dinosaurs, ice ages, and all major biological upheavals on Earth. Their bodies are designed for a single purpose: to attack quickly, hold on tight, and not let go. A bite from an adult crocodile has a force of up to thousands of kilograms, enough to crush bones in an instant. But what makes them most dangerous is not their strength, but their unpredictability. Crocodiles don't react like livestock. They don't recognize humans as caretakers. They don't form safety habits. On the farm, even though they are raised from a young age, crocodiles retain their wild instincts. An unusual movement, a strange sound, a slight deviation in safe distance, anything can trigger an almost instantaneous attack reflex. There are no warning signs. There's no time to think. That's why the people who work here never say they raise crocodiles. They're just saying they're trying to control a species that has never evolved to be controlled. Each workday is a delicate balance between discipline, experience, and luck. Modern crocodile farms don't resemble any wild image one might imagine. Here, natural swamps have been replaced by a meticulously designed system. Everything begins in the incubation area, where temperature and humidity are tightly controlled to determine survival rates from the very first days. Upon hatching, the baby crocodiles are transferred to tiered tanks, separated by size and developmental stage. The water is continuously filtered. The temperature is kept stable. The amount of food is calculated daily, weekly, and according to the growth rate of each group. There is no room for randomness. Here, crocodiles don't grow at a natural pace. They grow according to a production schedule. Every week of age, every kilogram of weight, every centimeter of length is recorded. Even the quality of the skin, the factor that determines the highest economic value, is monitored from a very early stage to ensure there are no scratches, no injuries, and no deviations from standards. Gradually, crocodiles are no longer seen as wild animals. In this system, they become living production units. Each individual is a number in the value chain, optimized to serve an industrial chain worth hundreds of millions of dollars. That transformation created a silent shock when wild instinct met industrial discipline. And at that intersection, risk never disappeared. It was simply managed day by day, hour by hour. For this farm, the number 1,352 is not a statistic. It's a mandatory target to be met every week, no sooner, no later, and without deviation. Each crocodile must reach the correct weight. The skin must be perfect. No scratches, no infections, no signs of excessive stress. Unlike conventional farming, crocodiles cannot be raised in cramped conditions, cannot be kept too close together, and cannot be allowed to get out of control. Even a slight imbalance in density will cause the crocodiles to start biting each other. A small scratch on the skin, something that might be overlooked by the naked eye, can be the end of the animal's commercial value. In this industry, crocodile leather is not valued by weight, but by its near-perfect condition. The value of a hide lies not in its size, but in how clean it is. Even a faint scratch, barely noticeable to the naked eye, can cause a drop in value of tens of thousands of dollars. If infection occurs and spreads, the damage is no longer limited to a single individual. It can affect the entire farm, disrupting an entire production plan. Therefore, each step in the process is tightly controlled, just like in a sophisticated industrial production line. From separating the crocodiles to prevent fighting, moving them between tanks, adjusting the water temperature and cleanliness, to the precise moment of removing them from the tank, everything is calculated down to the minute. There's no room for guesswork here, nor is there any room for procrastination or putting it off until tomorrow. Just a small misstep in logistics, a delay in delivery, incorrect stocking density, or unstable temperature can disrupt an entire operational chain worth hundreds of millions of dollars. The damage at this farm isn't measured by the number of alligators that died or were culled, but by the cold, hard numbers on the financial statements. That's the constant pressure the operations team has to bear every week, because here, a small scratch on a crocodile's skin can mean the wipeout of an entire profit stream. $150 million a year doesn't come from luck. It's generated through a closed-loop process, calculated from the moment the crocodile is caught from its enclosure until its skin leaves the processing plant. Here, each crocodile is no longer just a biological individual, but a valuable asset controlled down to the smallest detail. The process begins when the crocodile reaches the right age, weight, and most importantly, the right skin quality. The timing of capture is not chosen randomly. It is precisely determined to avoid stress, collisions, and any risks that could leave marks on the skin. Immediately afterwards, the crocodile was taken to the processing area. The butchering process was quick, efficient, and followed strict standards. The meat was separated and sent to the food processing chain. The skinning process is the most important and also the riskiest step. This cannot be left to ordinary machinery, but requires skilled craftsmen with high expertise and years of experience. The hide must be separated into a single piece with precise cuts, no frayed edges, no deep cuts, and no visible damage to the surface. Here, size does not determine value. A small but smooth, even piece of hide with beautiful grain and no blemishes may be worth much more than a large but flawed piece. After stripping, the hides are immediately cleaned to remove impurities, then subjected to preliminary processing to preserve their natural structure, elasticity, and durability. Temperature, humidity, and storage time are all strictly controlled. Any deviation during this stage could render the entire hide unsuitable for the premium segment. Only hides that meet almost absolute standards are included in the global distribution chain. There, they are sold directly to tanners and luxury fashion brands. From a crocodile born in a closed-off tank, that skin can be transformed into handbags, shoes, or belts that appear on the world's most expensive boulevards, where the final value far exceeds the initial cost of raising and processing. Therefore, this is no longer livestock farming in the traditional sense. It's not about raising animals for large harvests, but rather an industry where perfection is standardized, controlled, and valued down to the smallest detail. The luxury industry is built on strict discipline, constant risk, and standards that allow for not a single mistake. Under the carefully calculated lighting, a high-end leather bag sits silently in the display case, a symbol of status, refined taste, and consumer power. The Hermès, Chanel, Louis Vuitton, or Gucci logos quietly appear, so subtle that they need no introduction. But very few eyes trace its starting point. Not the avenues of Paris, not the Italian workshops, but the enclosed crocodile farms where thousands of lives are nurtured, measured, sorted, and fed into the assembly line each week, precisely like a production calculation. Between these two seemingly unrelated images exists a cold, perfectly efficient operating system. There is no good or evil there, only process, only optimization. Profit, risk, and the fine line between control and chaos all coexist. If you want to continue exploring true stories like this, where money, technology, and instinct clash, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Because out there are many harsh worlds we have yet to enter. Beneath the dark surface of the ocean, where only a few glimmers of light penetrate, mysterious creatures move in a world of their own. Among them, squid, which live in the middle and deep layers, stand out for their extremely sensitive ability to sense light and their sophisticated movements according to the cycles of the moon, water temperature, and cold ocean currents. During breeding season, squid move closer to the surface, where they drop thin, mist-like strings of eggs that float in the water. Inside each string are hundreds of growing squid embryos, their tiny black eyes visible when the moonlight filters through the transparent membrane. The ocean currents push these egg plates to calmer waters, waiting for the dawn moment for each squid larva to emerge, small as living threads, and immediately join the breathing rhythm of the sea. Therefore, squid fishing trips are only really effective at night, when darkness covers the ocean and artificial lights from ships attract them close to the surface. During the day, the squid almost disappeared out of reach. Tonight, with the hope of pulling in a huge haul, the fishermen faced a calm but treacherous sea where every wave and every breath of wind could be a risk. The value of a nighttime squid batch is not only in quantity, but also in quality. Firm flesh, rich sweetness, so fresh that Japanese, Korean, or EU markets are willing to pay many times more than squid caught during the day. This is the reason why a midnight trip in the lonely and vast night can turn into a real treasure. And as the ship enters an area predicted to be teeming with squid, all the secrets of their quantity, quality, and survival journey begin to be revealed, revealing moments of tension and surprise that only those who dare venture into the night will witness. Layers of squid eggs glisten like tiny pearls on the water's surface, a reminder that every trip is not just about harvesting, but also about witnessing the magical life cycle of marine life. That is when 12 tons of squid in the middle of the night, the silent footsteps of fishermen, and the mysteries under the dark ocean begin, leading us into the next part, exploring the unusual squid batch, the creatures in the dark, and the battle with the night sea. When the sonar on the ship started vibrating with unusual signals, no one could have expected that tonight would become one of the most memorable nights in the fisherman's life. Under the thick darkness, the squid appeared denser than anyone expected, their bodies reflecting the pale yellow light like pieces of silver drifting slowly. The first net was pulled up, and the sight stunned everyone. Squids of uniform size, exceeding standards, strange colors, unlike any previous catch. But the night sea is never calm. High waves crashed against the ship's hull. The wind whistled through the anchor ropes, and the winch vibrated as the nets were pulled tight. The decision was made. Lower the net. Every second was a duel with nature. When the net was finally pulled up, the huge haul emerged. 12 tons of high-quality squid, far beyond all expectations. Confusion and excitement were evident on everyone's faces, for such a haul only comes along every few years. Experts explain that this phenomenon is not just a matter of luck. A sudden rise of cold water, unusually low pressure, causes the squid to move in a concentrated manner. At the same time, the squid are hunted by large fish and whales, causing them to gather into a giant living cloud. A food stream, plankton bloom, also contributed to this rare natural event. It could be said that tonight was an event that only nature, with all its complex and unpredictable laws, could create. Do you dare believe that 12 tons of squid is possible when the weight of the net, the wind, and the night sea all around threatens life, and every moment is a choice between risk and reward, between caution and ambition? The sea never gives for free, and this catch of squid is a testament to the extraordinary adventure of those who dare to conquer the darkness. With 12 tons of squid in hand, the ship must quickly bring this treasure back to port, where the Asian market is waiting every minute. The risks do not stop, because as time passes, the value of the squid changes. Immediately, everyone understood that the price of squid tonight could skyrocket, almost like the price of gold. Every minute was precious. The cold storage had to be kept at -2 degrees Celsius to preserve freshness, and strong waves and winds forced the ship to speed 100 nautical miles back to port. One fisherman warned, A delay of a few hours could cost 40 to 60% of the value of the shipment. The race against time is a technical and psychological challenge where risk and reward go hand in hand. All eyes are glued to the horizon, waiting for the dawn to signal. When arriving at the dock, the tension reaches its peak of a golden night deal. As dawn broke, the fishing port became busier than ever. Traders jostled each other, refrigerated trucks lined up, all eyes were on the small ship that had just docked with 12 tons of rare squid. The tension in the air was so intense it could have been cut with a knife as each batch was inspected. The quality control results were breathtaking, sashimi-grade squid, fresh, firm, and perfect in every detail. In a moment of silence at the auction table, a Japanese businessman raised his hand and offered $900,000 for the entire 12 tons. The fishermen were stunned, their eyes filled with shock and disbelief. They had never seen such a figure in their lives. The international seafood market fluctuates greatly depending on season, weather, and supply. It is almost impossible for a small boat to catch a batch of super squid like this again. This huge value lies not only in the amount of money, but also in the story behind each squid, from the sea, the waves, the midnight risks, to the skills, decisions, and luck of the fishermen. Immediately after leaving the quiet harbor, 12 tons of squid were put into a strict preservation process right on the deck. The sailors only kept the ones that met the standards: thick body, firm meat, and uniform size. They are washed with cold, deep seawater to remove the natural slime and impurities, then immediately covered with dry ice to cool them down quickly, locking in freshness, the decisive factor in the value of night-caught squid. Once docked and transferred to the factory, the entire shipment enters the cold processing line. Workers clean the outer skin, remove the internal organs, and clearly identify each part, such as the body, tentacles, and wings. Squid are graded based on color, elasticity, and size. The most perfect, sashimi grade, are stored at 28 degrees Fahrenheit in special tanks to preserve their natural crispness. From here, they are processed in many ways. Thinly sliced for sashimi, left whole for flame-grilled ika sugatayaki, or divided into rings for tempura. Larger, meatier ones are reserved for high-end grilled dishes, where every fiber of the meat must retain the tenderness and subtle saltiness of the night sea. In luxury restaurants, squid has become a staple ingredient for dishes that cost far more than their original price. A top-grade squid can cost 20 to 30 times more. Are these squid dishes really worth it, or is it just a gimmick to make diners pay for the extravagance? But for Japanese and Korean diners who have very high standards for seafood, the price is entirely reasonable. They pay for rarity, a crunchy, sweet texture, near-perfect freshness, and a flavor that day-caught squid cannot replicate. When the squid reaches the hands of top chefs, its journey becomes a fusion of the ocean, exquisite cooking techniques, and the spirit of Asian cuisine. From the selection at sea to the way each knife glides through the squid, every step reflects the respect for this precious ingredient. And it is here, the journey through which fishermen look back on the night of fishing, facing risks, luck, and market fluctuations, all creating a surprise treasure that the sea only bestows on special nights. Imagine if the fishermen were late. The squid would start to lose its freshness, its quality would drop, and it would no longer be of high-end sashimi quality. The market price would immediately plummet, especially when the big boats returned to work and the supply would suddenly increase. The squid, sensitive and cunning, also migrate to other areas, leaving the night sea empty and the opportunity fleeting in an instant. Indeed, the golden window is only open for a few hours a year, and those who miss it have to wait for the next season. The vast ocean is not only full of mystery, it also holds unexpected opportunities for those who dare to plunge into the darkness, facing storms, risks, and rare luck. The night may have ended, but the ocean still holds untouched treasures. Whoever dares to set sail, whoever is patient and courageous enough, the sea always rewards them with surprises. If you want to continue following the magical stories from the sea, the rare jackpots, please subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell so as not to miss any adventures on the vast ocean. On the menus of upscale restaurants, king crab appears as a symbol of luxury. Vibrant red claws, thick, sweet, and firm white meat, served in warm lighting and with the gentle clinking of glasses. But out there, beneath the thick ice of the Arctic, that crab holds a completely different meaning. The king crab is a giant of the cold ocean, heavy, strong, living deep beneath the icy seabed, where each time it pulls its cage up is a real confrontation. It is this very value that makes king crab red gold under the ice, something that makes people willing to venture into waters where the slightest mistake can cost them their lives. The paradox lies in this. On the dinner table, it is a luxury. Under the ice, it is a deadly trap waiting to be opened. The Bering Sea during crab season is unlike any ocean you've ever known. Here, the weather can change in minutes. A calm sky suddenly erupts into a storm, winds howl, and waves rise like walls of water. Icebergs crash directly into the ship's hull, making a heavy crushing sound like metal being ground. The sub-zero temperatures froze air right in front of their faces, and the deck was as smooth as glass. One slip would be the end of everything. Daylight is so brief that you're practically living in darkness, losing all sense of time. And the scariest thing, there's no timely rescue here. If someone falls into that icy black water, their body will only survive for a few minutes. This isn't the sea. This is a place where humans weren't designed to survive. Crab pot. It sounds like just a trap, but on the deck of a ship in the Arctic, it resembles an 800-pound killing machine waiting for the slightest human error. Each pot is a rough block of steel, weighing between 700 and 800 pounds, covered in ice and frozen salt water. When the fishing season begins, they don't come aboard one by one. They come aboard in a chain, dozens of crab pots in a row, linked together by taut cables like guitar strings, hurtling up from the deep seabed to the terrifying screech of the winches. At that moment, the ship's deck transformed into a mechanical battlefield. Steel cables were under immense force. A single weak point, an undetected crack, and the cable could snap like an iron whip. Veteran sailors call it death without warning, because when the cable snaps, there's no time to react. The recoil is strong enough to knock, crush, or even hurl a person off the deck in an instant. But the danger doesn't just come from the cable. When the crab pot leaves the water, it hangs suspended in midair, swaying with the rhythm of the waves. Each high wave that crashes down is a random thrust, sending the nearly half-ton steel structure swinging sideways like a giant pendulum. If the pot slips from the hook or hits the edge of the deck at the wrong angle, it could hurtle straight toward a person. No helmet can save you from 800 pounds of steel sliding across a freezing deck. Sailors never stand still when the pot is being pulled up. They move constantly, avoiding the dead zone, the dangerous area where the pot could fall or slide. But the problem is, the deck is too narrow, and the sea never stands still. Just one slip on the ice, one moment of losing your balance, and you could be trapped between the pot and the railing. In that situation, no one will be able to pull you out in time. What makes crab pot fishing even more terrifying is the repetition. A catch isn't just one pot, but dozens of pots in a row. This means the danger doesn't come once, but lasts for hours. The body tires, reflexes slow, but each pot is just as heavy as the first. The accumulated fatigue is the biggest killer in this profession.
Come on, guys.
In the Bering Sea, the crab pot has no emotions, no fatigue, and makes no mistakes. It does only one thing. It is heavy, hard, and unforgiving. Humans, on the other hand, are the opposite.
We're going to try and relieve the pressure on the tank so we can get the crab.
And it is that very disparity that turns each time you pull the pot aboard into a true test of survival. This is no longer about fishing. This is when you step straight into danger, where an 800-pound block of steel can decide your life or death in seconds. They didn't board the ship with the mindset of adventurers. On the deck of a ship in the Arctic, no one treats risk as a game. Every sailor knew exactly what awaited them. 16 to 18 hours of work a day, bone-chilling cold, brief hours of sleep in cramped cabins, and the very real possibility of not returning. But they still went. Not because they weren't afraid, but because staying was even more terrifying. In coastal towns in Alaska, king crab fishing is more than just a job. It's a last resort. Many people are burdened with debt, families need money, and children need tuition. A successful fishing season can bring in hundreds of thousands, even millions of dollars for the entire crew. For them, it's not just a bonus, it's a once-a-year chance to change their lives. The choice is cruel and simple. Either you accept stepping into the ice, or you watch your life become stuck in place. There are no long-term contracts. There are no absolute guarantees of safety. There is only a brief period when the sea opens, and whoever dares to go has the chance to win big. Between icebergs and raging waves, the greatest motivation lies neither on the deck nor at the bottom of the sea. It lies in what they leave behind on shore: family, debt, a precarious future. And it was these things that made them turn their backs on their fears, board the ship, and accept 7 days of survival in a freezing hell, all for a single chance to change their lives. $3 million, a sum large enough to erase the memory of the freezing cold, large enough for ships that had just docked to begin preparing for their next voyage. In a successful season, a single king crab fishing trip could bring in several $1,000,000. That money is divided according to a strict order. The ship owner takes the majority to cover costs and risks, the captain takes responsibility, and the sailors, those standing on the coldest deck, share the remainder. But even that remaining portion can be equivalent to many years' income on land. That very number creates the cruel paradox of this profession. There are no guaranteed contracts, no fixed salaries, no promises of a successful voyage. There are seasons when ships return almost empty-handed, expenses eroding profits. There are seasons when the sea takes away more than just money. It takes away people. One mistake on deck, one wave arriving earlier than expected, and the price paid is irreversible. Yet the $3 million remained there, hanging in the air like a dangerous invitation. It wasn't enough to buy safety, not enough to erase the fear, but enough to make people believe that this time they would be lucky. Enough to make hands trembling with cold tighten their grip on the winches. Enough to make ships turn their bows toward the icebergs once more. And it is in that fine line between money and life that king crab fishing exists. Not because it is safe, but because the reward is too great to ignore. The moment the ship docks, the king crab processing plant is ready. No cheers, no waiting time. With king crab, the moment that determines its value doesn't lie on the deck. It begins here, in these freezing Arctic-like rooms. Live crabs are transferred directly from the ship to a system of circulating cold seawater tanks. Temperature, salinity, and oxygen are precisely controlled to keep them just alive, not too healthy, not too weak, to preserve the value of their meat. The factory at this point is nothing more than an emergency biological laboratory where every minute counts. The inspection process is quick and ruthless. Is the crab alive? Are the claws intact? Is the shell scratched? Is the meat still firm? Just one sign of error, a broken claw, a slow reflex, and the crab is immediately disqualified from the premium segment, even if it just survives 7 days in freezing hell. Here, there's no room for emotion. The factory doesn't care how hard the crab was caught. The only things that matter are quality, time, and market value. With king crab, every hour of delay in the factory is like letting money melt, like ice. On the warm dining table, king crab is presented like a luxury. Thick, white meat, steaming, silent, and perfect. No howling wind, no icebergs, no slippery deck. Just a plate, a dinner, and a few minutes of enjoyment. But at the other end of that value chain lies a week of survival in the Arctic, where time is measured in shifts and mistakes are measured in lives. And so, the next time you enjoy king crab, pause for a moment. Remember that somewhere, amidst the icebergs and raging waves, someone risked everything to bring it here. What about you? If the reward was $3 million, would you dare trade 7 days in the Arctic ice for it? Beneath the frigid Arctic ice, each king crab is the result of 7 days of survival, sweat, and even human lives. If you find the stories behind this meal thought-provoking, subscribe to the channel to discover more harsh, authentic, and haunting truths about the world that we rarely see. Tuna are not ordinary ocean fish. They are biological machines designed to never stop. Yellowfin, big eye, and bluefin tuna all possess enormous bodies, each weighing from 150 to over 600 pounds, with muscles as dense as living steel. Unlike most marine creatures, tuna must swim continuously to survive. Stopping means death. Their blood is warmer than the surrounding seawater, and their hearts beat relentlessly, allowing them to maintain high speeds and exceptional endurance for hundreds of miles. This ability makes tuna the ultimate predators, and also the most dangerous opponents when pulled aboard. Behind the enormous commercial value and the globally sought-after fish meat lies a little-known fact. Pulling up 200 tuna is not like pulling up fish. It's pulling up 200 living muscle masses, fighting with all the strength that nature has given them. The moment 200 tuna surface simultaneously is not the result of luck. It is the culmination of a series of precisely calculated maneuvers where technology, experience, and human effort work together like a complete hunting machine. On the bridge, the captain and technicians glued their eyes to the sonar, fish finder, and radar. Tiny signal dots on the screens revealed the location, depth, and size of an entire school of tuna moving below. Only when they confirmed the school was large enough and at the correct water level did the ship begin to accelerate. On deck, the winch, power block, and crane are all in operation. The nets are gradually pulled up. Seawater floods the deck, along with hundreds of muscular tuna bodies crashing violently against each other. The cumulative weight can reach tens of tons, causing the ship to vibrate with every movement. Just one small mistake, a misaligned cable, slow operation, can tear the net, let all the fish escape, or cause an accident in an instant. This is a method of fishing that yields enormous catches in a short time, but the risks are always at their highest. In stark contrast to purse seine fishing, tuna fishing with a long line is a game of patience and skill. Before casting the line, the fisherman must read the current, water temperature, depth, and when the fish will come up to feed. These factors determine the entire success or failure. With long line fishing, a main line tens of kilometers long is lowered into the sea, carrying hundreds to thousands of baited hooks. After hours of waiting, the fish are pulled up one by one. With hand line or pole and line fishing, the crew stands close to the side of the boat, jerking the fish continuously in a fast, precise, and extremely strenuous manner. The yield from these methods is much lower than that of nets, but in return the fish are less scratched, have firmer flesh, and meet the standards for sashimi, sushi, and high-end markets, where their value can be many times higher. One method relies on technology and collective strength to pull up hundreds of fish at once. The other relies on skill and experience to maintain the highest quality. Whether by net or by fishing rod, the moment 200 tuna surface at the same time is always clear evidence of the relentless confrontation between man and the ocean, where every decision carries risk, but can also determine the outcome of an entire fishing season. The ship's deck instantly transformed into a battleground for survival as 200 tuna were simultaneously pulled out of the water. The enormous weight crashed onto the steel deck, accompanied by the screeching of cables, the clanging of metal, and the thrashing of hundreds-pound fish bodies. Each sailor stands in their proper place like a cog in a living machine. The cableman, the fish channeler, the load controller. There is no room for error. Commands require only glances, gestures, and short, decisive shouts. The greatest pressure doesn't come from the fish's strength, but from time. The deck is wet with water and blood, slippery as a trap. Just one slow beat or one wrong release of the hand, and an accident could happen instantly. Therefore, each group of fish was processed in a precise sequence, not to speed things up, but to maintain control. When the last batch of fish lay still, there was no cheering, just quiet nods. They knew they were winning not by brute force, but by discipline amidst chaos. When 200 tuna have covered the deck, the catch is considered complete. But the real race begins now. This is a race measured in minutes, not hours, and there is no room for hesitation. Each fish is processed in an almost perfectly precise sequence. The blows must be accurate enough to stun the fish immediately, preventing convulsions that could damage the flesh. The knife is neatly incised at the gills and caudal peduncle to thoroughly drain the blood, preventing the darkening of the flesh from spreading, a factor that could cause the selling price to plummet in an instant. Every action was performed in silence and with intense concentration, because everyone understood that even a few minutes' delay meant real money would begin to disappear. Immediately afterward, the fish is taken straight down to the ship's hold. Slurry ice, a mixture of seawater and fine ice, envelops the entire fish, lowering its core temperature to a safe level as quickly as possible. The cold penetrates deeply, slowing down enzymes and bacteria before they can break down the flesh's structure. For large-scale catches or fish destined for the premium market, the blast freezing system is activated. An extremely powerful stream of cold air blows through each compartment, locking the quality of the fish in a state almost as if it had just left the sea. At this stage, temperature is the fine line between profit and loss. Just a few degrees off can cause the flesh to fade, the firmness to decrease, and the commercial value to plummet. Fish worth thousands of dollars can lose half their value simply because of slow processing or insufficient cooling. On the ship's deck, amidst the roar of the engine, the stench of blood, and the biting cold, no one spoke of the market or the fancy restaurants, because that money wasn't decided at the fish market. It was decided in the first 30 minutes, right here, where every tick of the clock carried risk, and every precise move held millions of dollars at risk of vanishing. The catch has just ended, but the real journey for the 200 tuna has only just begun. They are no longer the ocean spoils, but immediately enter a rigorous processing chain, where every minute determines the value of each fish. Right on the ship's deck, the tuna are quickly and accurately sorted by size, fat content, and flesh color. Only the highest quality fish are kept intact for sashimi and sushi, where every fiber of flesh must be bright red, firm, and completely flawless. At the factory, the process is even more rigorous. The fish are cleaned, skinned, and cut along the grain to preserve the texture. The back becomes premium sashimi. The fatty belly is used for steaks or pan frying, and smaller portions are processed into canned tuna, tuna in oil, or ready-to-eat products. Almost no gram of meat is wasted. All of that value is determined from the very first steps: draining at the right time to preserve the color, freezing quickly to maintain freshness, and each precise cut to lock in the flavor. Just one small mistake, and tuna can fall from a premium product to a common food item. When 200 tuna are pulled up in a single haul, it's not just a monetary win, but a question mark hanging over the ocean. Tuna are near the top of the food chain, playing a crucial role in maintaining the balance of the entire ecosystem below. When they disappear too quickly, the ocean doesn't cry out for help with words, but with imbalance. Small fish schools explode and then collapse, other predators lack food, and the natural order of millions of years begins to fall apart. Therefore, today's massive catches are controlled by quotas, international management, and strict seasonal restrictions. The lesson remains. Bluefin tuna once came close to extinction simply because humans exploited them faster than the sea could recover. And the final question is no longer how many fish we catch, but how many fish are left in the ocean to allow us to continue fishing. Finally, when the deck is quiet again and the ocean is calm, what remains is not just the value of a catch, but the fragile boundary between man and nature. Each tuna pulled up is the result of technology, skill, and sacrifice. But if the ocean runs dry, there will be no more voyages. If you want to continue exploring the true stories behind the most dangerous professions, million-dollar hunts, and the secrets the ocean is hiding, subscribe to the Go Discover channel and join us on our next journeys.